Coach Fiscus is the head football coach at McPherson College, which is an NAIA program out in Kansas. So, to get started, Coach, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you've gotten involved in your current role?
Yeah, sure. So I actually I graduated from McPherson College in 2008. After that, I got my first job, was a graduate assistant job at Northwestern State University, which is in Louisiana. It's in the Southland Conference. It's an FCS school. I was there for 2 years. I got a master's degree and helped coach the O-line my first year. We experienced a leadership change after that first season, which was, you get 3 months into the coaching profession and the people that brought you there are no longer there. So you figure out real fast what some of it's about. But then the second year I got to be actually the running backs coach. From there, I got the opportunity to go to TCU in Fort Worth when Coach Patterson was the head coach. I was a graduate assistant there in 2010 and 11. Got to be a part of a really special team there with part of the Rose Bowl win with over Wisconsin, and some of those things. I got another master's degree from TCU. After that, I went to Henderson State University in Arkansas. We're a D2 school. Was there for 6 years, kind of worked my way up from O-line coach to offensive coordinator and recruiting coordinator. And then my wife and I are both from the same county out here in Kansas. We started having a family and kind of decided, well, let's get back closer to home. So I took a head high school job for one season. I was there for one semester. It was a really little school. Very appreciative of them, giving me an opportunity. And it was certainly different when you play 11-man football and you got 13 or 14 kids on your team. I felt like a freshman in college again. I went right back to being a scout team center, so we could get some looks. And I was there for one semester, and then they asked me to come back here, and presented me an opportunity to come back here and lead a program that had been through quite a bit over a decade's time. So, got that opportunity. In 2019 was our first season here.
Nice. So what's that like going back to your alma mater and coaching the program that you play for?
It's a lot of fun. There is obviously anytime you're doing a job, you're trying to do a good job for the place and for the people. Certainly a different sense of instilled pride, I would say, when you played there. And there's also a different expectation. I mean, if it's, when I say that, people that guys that you played with, they have an expectation for you. And when you were teammates and they don't like how it's going, or they really like how it's going, you kind of really get the real blunt responses from them, good or bad, which is good. But I enjoy the opportunity and the challenge, and really like what we're doing currently.
Awesome. So you mentioned that you've been at a few different places throughout your career. So how many years have you officially been coaching at this point?
This season will be 16.
Gotcha. Having that 11-year period before you became a head coach, and then becoming the head coach in 2019, and obviously COVID happens in 2020. What experiences did you draw on from that decade of coaching that might have helped you as the COVID time period happened? Because we all know what happened during that point. Nobody's able to be together.
Yeah, I think that the thing that the COVID season was so weird, obviously for everyone in the world, but for me, so we finished out our season. Our kids at McPherson College that year, the week of Thanksgiving was finals. So you have this whole long period of time, because the kids were done, in that third week of November, when typically they would come back and finish mid-December. Well, our season got cut short due to some COVID things. So, I had there were at that point in time, there were 7 coaches on staff and 4 of them were quarantined. And our season was cut short. So really it gave me a chance to sit down and have a lot of time by myself to evaluate, because that was a rough year on everybody. And, I've said this before, but that time period, the best thing that really came out of it is in terms of human study, you pretty much saw the worst out of everybody.
Yeah.
In terms of just handling daily adversity. And, that doesn't mean this individual changed or not, but you just saw how they handled it, because every day was adversity, like for everybody in the world. Like, when you're talking about testing, when you're talking about, just this symptom or that symptom, you can't be too close to this person, where's your mask, and all this nonsense that we went through as a country and as a world, whatever. It gave you the opportunity to see some characteristics come up, or consistency. And so, like, when everybody got sick and our season was cut short, when it was literally just help the kids try to navigate the last 2 weeks of being on campus after the season was over. Like I said, I had 4 coaches that were in a 2-week quarantine. I had another coach that was getting ready to have his first kid, so I advised him to quarantine with his wife, just to, like, hey man, take your laptop. Like, we've been working. That I sat down and actually evaluated 10 years worth of rosters of teams I had been part of, and kind of made some recruiting rules, made some hard, fast rules on certain players you do and don't take, and then also identified some true red flags, for at least things that, for me, that just have been really, things I should be really leery of when dealing with players or coaches, and it made us look at from a schematic. So, like, really just like evaluating the kind of people you have around. And I took a roster piece from, I look back from 2010 all the way through the 2020 roster, and looked at every kid and looked at their background that I knew of, at least the knowledge that I had. And I'm talking about the kind of family, the area they were from, the kind of student they were, were they a transfer? Where did they transfer from? Just all those things. And then we looked at schematics, and it was like, well, look, you don't know when this thing's going to go away. So how can you try to make it to where a guy can come in and, how can you get your verbiage cut down and your teaching maximized to where a guy can learn it fast? Because, like, this year, if you were a verbiage based thing, or like a big rep thing, or all these, like, if you were super complicated, especially when there was no meetings and weird, just everything was weird. If you couldn't make a point pretty dang quick, and make a 12-minute or less Zoom recording of your film, you were going to lose that kid's attention. So, just evaluating, like, what and how are we teaching things?
Definitely. And during that COVID year, actually, I was still a player at Gettysburg College. So as a Division III program, we didn't even have a season. We were under the impression that we might have a spring season, and this was my senior season. So I was practicing, not even knowing if I'd play again, because I was on campus. So it was definitely a unique experience for me. And it's cool learning about what other people have to say about it, because, from a coach's perspective, I know a lot of people just had trouble connecting with their team, if you're not able to actually meet in person, if you're talking over Zoom or just phone calls. So what advice would you give a coach, if maybe just expanding onto all coaching outside of just the COVID time period, but like, if they're having trouble connecting with a kid, what advice would you give a coach like that?
Just in general, like, I think, if you're having a hard time connecting with a player, I think you just need to try to ask a lot of questions to find a spark of interest that has nothing to do with football or academics, and find a way into just, get that kid to open up about something. And if it's something you don't know about, but they're passionate about, like, I've been out of college for 15 years. I don't know anything about video games anymore. but if that's what a kid's into, I'll start asking him questions or find a reason or a way to tease him about it enough to have a relationship, like, I think you just ask questions or find a common interest and or find something that kid's interested in, and at least you have something to talk about. Like, and that's advice for, like, we do these because we are a smaller college. So you do these workshops for faculty and staff or all together, like that, you're in there working through these things. And, like at one point I asked them all, like, don't ask the kid how their sport is going. It doesn't matter if they're football or basketball. Like, ask them how they're doing, ask them how their roommate is. Like, have a common ground with a kid that has nothing to do with the sport or the major. Because if that's not going good, and if that's not their day, and if all you have with that kid is football, but you have to get in the middle of him, or he ain't playing good, or you guys are, or a guy's playing better than him, and he's not getting the reps he wants, like, you're going to be really hard pressed to keep a good line of communication with a guy if all you have with him is football and school, versus, like I have a tight end on my team that right now, he's a young guy, was a red shirt, but he's a Bears fan. And I'm, so I take every opportunity I can to send him every Instagram making fun of the Bears that I can, just so we talk about something that's not about him playing tight end or going to school at McPherson College. And it's like, that kind of, just building those relationships through whatever genuine form of communication you can.
Definitely. And I have to ask you this, since you mentioned the NFL. So are you a Chiefs fan then?
I grew up on the Chiefs. I'm more apt to follow coaching than I am like a player or stick with an organization. I feel like it's really hard to actually be a true fan of somewhere when, like, whatever, the Chiefs are doing is cool, and or whoever's, whatever, like, they don't affect my paycheck, and I don't have a lot of energy to give to anything. So it's purely for entertainment purposes during the season. Now, getting to study some of that stuff later is, but, I wouldn't really call myself a fan of like an organization per se. Cause I like what the Detroit Lions are doing and their persona as much as I like the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's,
Yeah.
there's just kind of, I follow those kind of things, but I mean, Arrowhead is cool. The stadium's cool. My parents have been season ticket holders for a long time. So, got to go up there, 2 weekends ago and kind of experience that, try to make one of those a year and stuff like that. So it's cool to be, have that access, but I wouldn't call myself a fan per se.
Yeah. And it's funny how, as you get older, it isn't the same as like when you were growing up. And the reason I asked was I'm from Philly, so you guys got the best of us in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
But no, definitely good stuff. And that's actually a good point with the Lions too. I really like the blue collar mentality that they bring to the table, and that's just being fans of the way that people and coaches like run their programs. I think is a good thing for a coach. No matter what level you're at, for sure. Do you have any last words, Coach, that you want to share with the audience today before we hop off?
Just obviously coaching's a really, it's a really good, tool to connect with people and give back. And that's one of the, I guess, more rewarding things here is, you have the ability to help a lot of young men through difficult situations. Truly, like the, loss of a family member, loss of a parent, loss of a sibling, and get to help guys grow up. And I think if you're connecting with people, and they know that it's about more than just the football, it doesn't really matter if you are a Pee Wee coach or a junior high coach or, I guess I don't have a college coach. I've been at all the levels except for Division III, either as a player or a coach. I mean, I've played at junior college and at the NAIA level. I've coached at the FBS, the FCS, the Division II, and the high school level. So, I think, it's a really great way to connect with people and help somebody else. Because, most of the time the coach is the more mature one that's been through things. And I see it as a privilege more so than just coaching the football, and guiding them through academics is like helping them through their life, helping them, you have a player, unfortunately I've had, I think 3 players in the last 3 years of being here that have lost their mothers. You know, and just being there and helping them figure out like a hard time and seeing them like, work through that and persevere, even though it's like they're going through one of the worst things in the world. And just being able to be somebody that can be a positive person in their life and, just the general connectivity that can, I mean, I remember all of my flag football coaches or Pee Wee coaches. I remember the guys that coached me and how they were in junior high and high school. All those things. I'm a rare case that I played for 4 head coaches in 5 years of college. So, a lot of that transition and ultimately it's, I remember the guys that I felt like wanted me to be, I remember the guys I had personal relationships with and felt like they wanted the actual best for me. And there's a difference between that or the guys that just want you to play good for them and that type of a deal. So I think the biggest thing is, being a coach, at least at some of these levels, be it high school, junior high, college, whatever, is, the privilege to help a guy grow up is awesome.
Definitely. And that's exactly right. Like from my perspective too, just like having coaches that are genuine and actually, care about you as a person are the people that have the most impact. Like I'm 24 years old now and I still keep in touch with the guys that coached me in like grade school. And, those are guys that like helped shape me into the person I am today. That's hopefully some of the guys that are watching will learn something from this podcast. And that's the hope with the podcast is to spread that knowledge. And in the coaching profession, especially, I feel like a lot of people have so much knowledge and experience, and it's great to have such a community that's willing to help others. So, Coach, really appreciate you being one of those guys that is able to help, and had a great conversation with you today. Thank you for joining.
I appreciate you, Justin.